Well, tell me what you're working on now.
But I'm always working on something. I
Yes.
had a book come out, the third book in the Kira Dugan series, and I've written the 12th or 13th book. I think it's the 13th book in the Tracy Crosswhite series. I think A Dead Draw, which is behind me, was number 12. So the 13th will be coming out in September, and that's called One Split Second. So what I'm working on at present, in fact, just was working on this morning, are I got back some edits from my editor, Gracie Doyle at Amazon Publishing, on a book that's called The Boiler Room, which is the story of Patsy Dugan, Kira Dugan's father, and how he, as a young man, and how he becomes known as the Irish Brawler. So that's a lot of fun for me because I get to go back to, dirty Seattle politics, back in the 60s and all that stuff. So I'm in the middle of doing that and having a lot of fun with it.
Well, I probably only read a couple of your books a year, but between Carmen and I, we read them all. And I just finished her Cold Justice, and you and I chatted about this. I bailed out of law school without any thought of going back, and I have never been a huge fan of courtroom drama. And the thing I love most about this started off to be a great courtroom drama. It turned into something completely different. And I love that. The end of the book, you suck me in again. Okay, so I've got to keep reading these. So,
Yeah, I enjoy the courtroom stuff. My agents and my editors think, that I do that well, and that's why they asked me if I'd go back to doing another legal thriller series. I don't know
yeah.
if we'll do another book in the Kira Dugan series beyond Patsy Dugan, which is really more of a standalone anyway.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it is what the market dictates, right? And all those kind of things. I mean, you and I
Yeah.
both, you can write a great book, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't hit, or it doesn't hit the way some of your other books hit, and so, you just keep going forward. And I like the opportunity to write a new series, come up with a new character, and do something different anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's kind of where my head has been recently. I took the book you and I were just chatting about, The Boy Who Lived in a Tree, is the working title of that book. And I set it on the shelf for 7 years and didn't do anything with that. And now that it's out in the market again, I've been working really hard on the third follow-up book for that. And I should wrap that up, probably at the end of April. And I'm trying to do that and continue the two series I've got going right now. So, like you, this started off to me as kind of a hobby writing project, and it has turned into full-time work, and I love it. So, I,
So remind me, is the second book in that series the one that I read about? Is that the one? Does he go off to Vietnam in that one?
yes,
Yeah, that's a great book. I love both those books. The boy in the tree is who lived in a tree. It's enduring because it's a story of survival. You got this young kid who you're immediately drawn to. You're empathetic. Just has these horrible circumstances that causes him to have to flee. And he's fleeing wrongfully, and that, but you can't explain that to I think he's a 10-year-old boy or whatever. But his journey to get to his grandmother's, and then what happens, and what he has to endure. It's just a remarkable story of what human beings can kind of endure. But to do it at that young age, it makes it all the more remarkable. And yeah, I've really enjoyed following his journey and seeing him develop.
well, the next one um, takes him home and through his education, and then right back to Vietnam as Vietnam is collapsing. And the kid can't get a break. I mean, the bottom line is, uh, he reminds me a lot of me in my early years. I successfully managed to put myself in a lot of places where I probably shouldn't have been and had to fight my way out of them. And that's why the book, I think, the writing rings fairly authentic, because a lot of it was very deeply felt.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very raw and unfiltered, which is what every writer wants in their stories. They want their story to be raw and unfiltered, and
yeah,
and to have the reader believe that they're reading this in real time. And
Yeah.
that's what really struck me about both those books is I just felt like I was really reading them in real time. And and it's not unlike a Harry Potter story, right? I mean, Harry's always in trouble. There's always, I mean, that's what good stories are about. They're about
Yep.
characters in conflict and overcoming those conflicts. And I really felt like the two stories I read, the boy who lived in a tree, and then the sequel. I forget what the working title of the sequel was,
So
but
the youth who swam the Mekong.
yeah, I mean, I just, you really, you just did a great job of capturing a character there that I could fall in love with.
Well, I appreciate it. Now the task, of course, is to get those into the market.
Sure.
I've got my next book coming out will be in September, and that it will be the fourth book in my Team Walker thriller series. And it's very, very unique book in that it's unlike most of my books, which were filled full of international conflict, because that's really where I spent my life.
Sure.
This is a book about two middle-aged people desperately trying to make a living on an old gold mine in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And out of nowhere, out of the sky comes this huge crash in the middle of the night, and it destroys everything that they've been working on. And they dig this thing out of a hole, and it's a perfect diamond, but the biggest diamond in the world. That's the beginning of the story.
Wow.
And it came from space. And
Wow.
it has a structure inside of it that is technically impossible to be there. That's the beginning of the story. So,
Nice.
and
Nice.
I've, I've had so much fun researching that. I know more about diamonds now than I ever wanted to know.
I was gonna ask you, did you do the research about what's inside of the diamond, and is that really something that could exist in today's world?
Not in our world.
Even better, even better.
In fact, the part of the subtitle on this book is First Contact. And just imagine if First Contact with intelligent life wasn't life as we know it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's really the gist behind this story.
sure.
And instead of being threatening, they're desperately trying to help us survive, having watched us from afar.
Okay, okay, yeah,
So,
sounds good.
yep.
I'm
Uh,
intrigued.
well, I will give you a chance to take a quick look at that before we publish, if you wouldn't mind.
I'd love to.
Okay. Tell me about your next book that you've got one just coming out in the next 2 or 3 months.
So this is this is called One Split Second, and you know, years ago I wrote a book called In the Clearing, and it was the story of Tracy Crosswhite uh, going down to Stone Ridge, a town on the border of Oregon and Washington, to visit a friend of hers, a classmate at the academy, Jenny Almond. And Jenny asked Christy if she'll look at excuse me, she asked uh, Tracy
Tracy?
if she will look at a case that her father had explored,
Yeah.
30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's now a cold case about a young Indian woman on a reservation down there who died mysteriously, and her father never believed she died the way that the coroner and everybody else concluded. So in any event, Tracy gets called back down there because there's a Vietnam veteran, a tunnel rat, who lives in an isolated area down in Stone Ridge. And uh, Jenny Almond, the daughter, who's now the sheriff of Klickitat County, takes over for her father, Buzz, who has passed away, gets a call sort of, as she's getting ready to settle down for the night. And it's this guy, and he's kind of speaking gibberish to her, indicating being he's using phrases that he used in Vietnam. And she thinks he's off his meds, and she goes out there, and things progress from there. And she ends up in jail, and she calls Tracy and Dan. She needs help, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the town. But the thing that really drew me back to it was the story of her father, which is Buzz Almond. He's a former Vietnam Marine who, when he left Vietnam, he moved to this small town and started working for the sheriff's office, and he dealt with flashbacks and PTSD, but he's able to build himself back up to being the sheriff. And this is the second case that he never felt good about. And it's the case of a young woman who left her house one day at 6 o'clock at night to go babysit and was never seen or heard from again. And it's based on a story that took place in Wisconsin, a small town in Wisconsin. And a young girl, 50 years ago, leaves her house to go babysit for a teacher, and never seen or heard from again. Never found a body, never found a blood trail. I mean, nothing. Just flat out disappears in a second. And so, I get to tell the story in two timelines. One is Buzz Almond when he's doing the sheriff who's called out to the site. He's the first responder. And then Tracy, as she's trying to figure out, she believes that there's a tie-in between what happened 50 years ago and what happened to this Vietnam veteran the night that Jenny went out to his house. So, I get to work with some really wonderful characters that I didn't think I'd ever be able to bring back. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm really, really excited about the story. I really believe in the story. I think it comes off very well. Buzz Almond, I get to bring him back to life for the last time, I'm sure. But it's and I get to bring Dan in. I get to bring in the trial of Jenny and all the stuff behind the scenes. So it's a real barn burner, and it really takes off on page one, and it just keeps going all the way to the final pages.